Deception, lies, and deceit. How much can you tolerate? This is something that's been on my mind recently because this is something that I've been dealing with and thinking about when it comes to other people. Other people who deceive, whether it be an intentional lie, they're intentionally deceiving for some sort of malicious purpose, or they deceive because they don't want to hurt the other person. They're too intimidated or shy to actually share what's really going on, or there's something else entirely. But it's still a lie, it's still a level of deceit. And then just the excuse making as well, just making excuses for bad actions. Someone does a bad action, someone does something bad, so they have an excuse as to why they behave the way that they did, and they always have some sort of excuse, and they always expect you to believe it in one way or another. So I'm just thinking, how much can I tolerate here before I'm finally just enough of this? You know what I mean? And I think I'm kind of at that point with, certain situations in my life, certain even people who just keep making all these sort of excuses, all this sort of stuff. Because I can be lenient to a degree in understanding of someone else's situation or problems or whatever else is going on within their life. But there comes a point where you see the pattern of behavior. There's no changing the pattern of behavior. And when someone makes an excuse or they apologize or whatever else, and they continue to do that same behavior again and again and again, it's really showing that they're not actually learning anything from the situation. So, this is just something that I've been thinking about in hopes that if you're dealing with this sort of situation, that you can finally step up and put your foot down and stand your own ground as to what you're willing to tolerate. Are you willing to tolerate lies and abuse and all these other situations because you are fearful of something? That's another aspect of this. And I want to use an example here because it's just something that came to mind, I think, is part of this sort of situation. Like an example of people who lie and deceive and all this sort of stuff. Because I've encountered this sort of situation plenty of times before. Talking with other people, association with other people, I have noticed. But let's take, for example, a romantic relationship where there is an abuser and then there is basically a victim in this relationship. In this relationship dynamic, the abuser doesn't have to be physical abuse, but it could be in a form of emotional abuse, that they lie to their partner, they deceive their partner, they are going behind their partner's back, they promise all these things, they never deliver upon those things. They then make excuses as to why they didn't deliver, and they continue to do the same thing again and again and again. So, if you were in the shoes then of the person who is receiving the abuse, you would probably think, oh, this is it. I'm putting my foot down and saying no to this situation. The problem is, and this is, I think, this is why it's very hard for a lot of these people in these sort of situations to put their foot down. And I think we've all been in those sort of situations to some degree. It doesn't even have to be romantic. It could be a friendship that's keeps going the same exact way, all this sort of stuff. So I have found myself in those sort of situations before. Not in a romantic sense, but in situations where I need to put my foot down, but I just really can't. It's kind of hard to. So, why can't the person who is the victim put their foot down and say no to the situation and stop it? Because they have fear. It may not necessarily be fear as in, oh, you are afraid that this other person is going to harm you and abuse you. That could certainly be a fear that they're going to do worse things to you if you try to stand your ground. But more so if it is a friendship or a romantic relationship, if you're close with the other person, it's the fear that if you were to terminate this, that you would find no one better. You don't want to be alone. So you tolerate the abuse and the negative situations happening to you because that's all you know. You think that this is as good as it's going to get, and this is what you deserve. But the fact of the matter is, you deserve so much more positivity that this person is not bringing into your life. So once you realize your own self-worth and realize that, then you're able to put your foot down with ease and make it very, very simple. So it should be quite easy for an outsider to look at the situation and say, you need to get out of that situation. But for the person in it, they have to realize their own self-worth. They have to realize that this other person is harming them, is doing all these horrible things to them. And until they can realize that they are worth a lot more, that something better will come into their life if they just get out of the situation, then they're just going to constantly be stuck in it as a result. So that's just what was on my mind recently, because there's, as I said, there's certain situations, not to that degree, that I've been thinking about that I really need to put my foot down. It's like, how much am I willing to tolerate from these situations? So let me know what your thoughts are on this. You all take care, have a great one, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.